Okay, I'm here.
I think that we are streaming live now, and we've waited an appropriate period of time to get everybody picked up. And I would like to call this meeting to order. This is a special called meeting with a very limited agenda tonight. And it is a little bit past 5:30, but we're still being pretty timely. And I would ask for an approval of the minutes for the February 8th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
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 We got the minutes approved unanimously. And a brief order of business that we needed in a timely fashion is to talk about some rates for the Civic Center before we go into the more pressing issue of filling a vacancy on the council seat. With that, I'm going to turn over to John Ward, and he has sent us previously a recommendations of schedule fees and usage for the city Civic Center. And with that, I'm going to turn over. John, are you going to share your screen here? Or
I'm not sure if I can. I can try. No, I can't share it. You should have a copy of it.
Yep.
John, you can share now.
I can't. Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and share.
Yeah, we'll share it for the benefit of people who may be tuned in right now or later.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What they did with the new Civic Center, the fact that we've increased the size of the smaller room, so it can hold more people, up to 30 now, and that one and that's seated at tables. We've created a more flexible cost for usage, creating weekday, weekend. And then for the smaller room, we we get a lot of birthday parties and stuff, and most of them can be handled in the smaller room, and we can get them a half-day rate instead of a full-day rate and save them some more money. So if you take a look at the schedule, weekday gets a break for the main hall by $50 a day for the general activities and for profits, and then for nonprofits is just exactly one half of that. Of the general activity or for-profit activities. Daily rate for I'm sorry.
Just a quick question. Just citizens renting this for like a birthday party or something, would that fall into the general or nonprofit bucket?
Actually, it doesn't fall into any of those at this point in time because we're looking generally at the smaller room for birthdays because you can rent it for half a day, and that's what I was going to go into.
Okay.
On that one.
Okay.
Residents get breaks on that room either per day or per half a day. In other words, you don't need a full day to do a birthday party. You need a couple hours set up, couple hours for the birthday party, and then for clean up and go. Generally within 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours, you're done with a birthday party, correct? And so what they want to do is get that rate down so that non-resident or residents could actually get it, a half day rate for birthday parties. And that's actually half day is a 6 hour rate. Okay. And that would be $40 for the resident, $55 for non-resident. A full day rate still is where it was, $75. But we're in this room, in the smaller room, because most birthday parties don't need the large room. That's set for 300 people plus. So that's
But
one
John,
reason. Yes, ma'am.
if they wanted to, like 15, 16 years old, if they wanted to have a dance or something, they might want the larger room.
Okay. Well, right now we've got it set up. We don't have a break at this point for the bigger room because we were looking at that as for larger activities and not just birthday parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was my only question. Just so if a citizen did want the big room for, I don't know, just to let kids run around or whatever for a day, half day, would it fall into that nonprofit bucket, that $100?
Or a family reunion, that'd be the same thing.
Yeah, it could. I mean,
mean-
that's what you guys want. I mean, you'll have the ultimate say on this. This is a recommendation. If you want to make some changes to that, that's fine.
Just a definition of which is $100 or $200 for just somebody wanting to have something in the big room.
Well, I mean, if you want to do that for a resident, you could do that. It lists them as a nonprofit because they're not really for profit.
Right.
But they're not also necessarily general activities because it's not for the general public. It would be for I guess maybe the family.
Yeah. I mean, $100 would feel right to me personally. That's just.
Okay. Well, the one thing I would like to is to revisit the definition of resident. And you're talking about, if you own property in the city, but you live in Paducah or somewhere else, I mean, you still get a resident rate. Because what happens with a lot of these people is they call Joe Blow here in town and say, would you rent this for me? It's my party, but I want you to rent it. And so we're giving this to a non-resident for a residence rate. You might, if you would consider that would be something I would request.
John,
So
are
they
you
don't
also still
bypass.
asking for the insurance policy?
No, ma'am.
Good,
On with deposit only.
good. I like that.
They have to go with a deposit. The deposit will be deposited into the bank. And then once it's over with, we'll cut them a check for
Good.
that back. Okay. So the weekend deposits are given. The use of the catering room and setup and takedown are strictly options that are there. We will provide, they can get the use of the catering room for $50 flat, for however long they're there. Mostly if you're looking at the birthday parties, they're not going to use the catering room. They're going to bring it right straight into the room. Correct?
I think so.
Yeah. There may be an option where they want to do that for a larger gathering, but again, that's just $50 for that room. Setup and takedown. If you'll note the note at the bottom, you'll see it says setup and takedown by staff is optional and based on actual time spent in 15-minute increments, but never more than 2 hours for either. We can our guys can set up and take down the big room in about an hour and a half, or set it up or take it down in about an hour and a half. So that would be $150 for a complete setup, basically, if we're utilizing our stuff and it's requested.
So if someone said, I want 20 tables set up full of chairs when I get there, and then y'all break it down too, it would be no more than 200.
Well, if it depends on it depends. No more than 200 per setup or takedown.
Gotcha.
It's actual time. Most cases, if they wanted 20 tables with chairs, and the guys will be done in and out of there between 15 and 30 minutes. So you're talking about maybe $100 for setup and takedown.
Would
They can move on pretty quick with that.
Would an individual be able to do the tables and chairs themselves or not?
They can.
Okay.
They can. Like I said, it's an option. It's not required, but it is an option. The only benefit we have to that is if we can inspect if someone has done damage that they might try to hide from us. Is that about the only thing?
Right.
So what like I said, we are doing the half a day for the little room and a day rate so that they can actually reduce. There's no, reduce the amount they have to spend or they're out of pocket for a rental, for a small birthday party. And then if they want to use the big one, if you guys want them to use the nonprofit rate for residents in a big room, they just have to do the rental, half rental rate in there plus the deposit.
One other. So I
Yes,
just a second, I got to think about what it was.
Well, now, one of the reasons there is a distinguishing characteristic between profit and nonprofit is I think in the past, there were people who had rented the Civic Center for classes of various and sundry types. And I think that's why we went down. That's why the Parks Board and ultimately the council went down that route. Am I recollecting that right, John?
That was actually before me. I mean, when I got here, it was just listed as resident. And there's a list on there of general activities, and supposed to be, if you're doing a training, you're supposed to be paying the full amount. But if one of the local businesses, we're going to rent this room, we want the half room rate, but then someone's come in and they're getting paid for the class. There's ones that you would have thought would have been the one to rent it, because they're hosting the class and they're putting on the class for somebody else, and they're getting paid to do that. But we're getting a half rate because the corporation, or whoever. And I mean, if that's what you guys are okay with that, then that's fine. That's what we'll do. But I just looking for clarification on that issue.
One of the things we do with the training center, fire training center, is if somebody has a class for a business, it's one thing. And if somebody has a class down there for open enrollment, it's something different. And so if it's a local Calvert City industry, I'm just talking about the training center now. If a local industry puts on a class for their industry, for their employees, there's no charge. If someone comes down with an open enrollment training class where they're making profit and putting on classes, then we do charge them. And so there's probably a little bit of wiggle room around that from time to time. I think we probably have some trainers that will sneak in a student or two on us, but by and large, if they're having an open enrollment class, then we expect to see rental. Is that something like you're thinking about here, John?
Well, what I'm thinking is because we do have the fire training center and we offer that at basically no cost to them down there. I wonder, are we going to, we're still going to give the break up here when we've got the training class available to them?
Well, one of the things about the fire training center is it's meant primarily for emergency services training, and it's a much smaller area and it's harder to get traffic in and out. You're talking about when we have some of the local industries prep for a shutdown activity, and they give a big wad of orientation, like for a half a day.
No, I'm not looking at that. That is actually an activity they're doing, and that would be listed as a nonprofit. I understand that. I'm talking about them trying to bring somebody in here to host a training up here, as opposed to doing it at the fire training center. I mean, that's okay if that's what you want to do. I just need to get a clarification on that, because we do have the fire training center and it's free if I utilize it.
Yeah. And what it's going to cost them to use the civic center.
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, and I don't mind. I just, like I said, I don't want to get out here and get into I don't want to get it confused when we're trying to work out the arrangements.
I thought of my question, the $250 on the weekend, that's Saturday or Sunday. It's not both, it's each day, right?
That is correct.
And
That's per day.
not that we've had any in a long time, but its original purpose, the Civic Center, was to have dances and stuff. And if somebody wanted to do that for profit, would that be the same amount, or would that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The 250. Yes, ma'am. If somebody wanted to have an auction up there, that would be 250.
Okay.
If we had people that want to come in that are vendors that want to bring people in to see, that would be the 250 rent. Yes.
So do we feel, I think, what did the Parks Board think about the rate? I mean, did they have some varied experience on that board? What do they think about the competitiveness of that rate?
Well, that rate is very competitive. When you start looking at some of the others around here, what they charge, it's pretty. And I'm not talking about other cities. I'm talking about other renting facilities in the city. Those are compatible.
If anybody got any more questions about this?
I would like to quickly touch the amphitheater. The only change there is the weekday rate. The other rate is the same as it's been all along. Deposit again here, instead of insurance, we're using deposits. The ball fields, those numbers right there have been there since before I got here. That's the same numbers. We haven't changed anything. All those numbers are still the same. The only thing different would be the fireplace rental at the old the new pavilion at the old park. And that's actually a $25 fee plus the actual cost of a tank of LP gas. So unless if they're just going down there to use it, it doesn't cost anything. But if they want the fireplace, then it costs one tank of gas, which is a tank of gas like you'd use on your grill, and plus $25 fee to set it up
Fair.
But we do take reservations.
Yes. You did for me.
Okay, I mean, that's
Yeah, I
fine.
think you need to take reservations.
Well, we've been doing it basically the same way we do all the pavilions. But we can take reservations if
Yeah.
you guys want us to, we'll do that.
I mean, as much money and effort as we put into it, and if somebody wanted it for a family reunion or something like that, I think we should. I mean, I'm not even opposed to charge a small fee for it, but I think you should take reservations.
Okay.
Well, now, John, don't we take reservations for pavilions now for like birthday parties?
I'm not quite sure. Glenda, can you elaborate?
Yes, people would call and we will tell them that we will put their name and have it reserved for them.
Okay.
Of course, there wasn't a cost, but we did have it reserved for them. They would tell us which tables they wanted, or, the front or the back or wherever. And that's how we've done that.
In the old pavilion, there was a marker board and they would write, reserved for the Babcock family for this date from this time to this time. I mean, I just think that taking reservations will ensure that you're not going to have two families show up to use it at once.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
So it's a public service. Taking reservations is definitely doing a service to our public.
Yeah. And that's what we have always done on the tables.
I agree. As a person that has a large family that uses lots of that stuff, I agree.
Okay.
Same here.
Well, now,
I've used it all. I've used it all. My family's used it all, so we know.
all right. That's what we like to hear. Has anybody got any more questions, or John, you got anything else to emphasize here?
Well, no, I think we pretty well covered it, unless they have questions that I can answer.
The schedule of fees looks good to me. I'd make a motion to approve it as presented by the Parks Board.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Back to where I can see everybody in this view. That's good. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So we've passed that. Okay. Now on to the more pressing issue that we have to deal with. I say we, you guys have to deal with to find a council member and replace a council member. And with that, we have Mr. Northcutt here to tell us, is there anything in particular we need to be aware of from our legal obligations as we go through this effort? What does it say?
The statute is fairly sparse, actually. It says that you guys have the right and the obligation to fill the vacancy within 30 days of the vacancy occurring. The requirements are fairly straightforward. Whoever you appoint has to have lived in Calvert City for more than a year prior to their appointment. They can't be guilty of a felony or bribery or forgery or something else. We'll look if that's an issue, but they can't be guilty of one of those particular crimes. And there is no protocol dictated. You guys can you can make a motion, somebody can make a motion and you vote on it. Or you can interview people if you want to. You can go in, you can't go into executive session to discuss generally the issues or the procedures. You could go into executive session if you wished, if you were going to discuss certain persons. That is allowed, but not general discussion.
Okay.
That's about it.
So we've got a task ahead of us, and that is to come to an agreement on who the city council would like to had until March the 6th. We had previously taken action to have interested parties submit their interest to us. And we have gotten copies of letters of interest and some resumes from a pretty good, well, actually a great group of people. We have 7 people on record of having shown interest in being available and willing to take a Calvert City Council appointment. I believe it'd be appropriate right now to go ahead and read these names of folks who've shown some interest, and have a conversation about what we want to do for a process. I keep saying we. What kind of process we want to go through to come to an agreement or a consensus on who this individual to add to the ranks would be. So unless there's an objection, I will go ahead and read the names just as a matter of record during this meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
Sure.
Before we read the names, are we supposed to read the names? I remember whenever we did this before, we were trying to. Don't you keep that kind of confidential?
No.
Well, I mean, we can do. I'm here to facilitate you guys. If the council would be more comfortable keeping them confidential, I don't know that I particularly have a problem with that. But you know, the bad thing about it is about talking. I mean, we're going to have one winner and 6 losers. I hate to. I mean, there's going to be some person selected, and I think that you guys are going to do a great job of selecting the person that's going to do a great job. But we certainly don't want to get into the attitude adjustment that, you know, we have losers. I mean, all these people love their community, are willing to work for the community. Many of them are involved in a whole lot of different levels, and are great volunteers. I, as mayor, am very happy to see this list of folks come up. So let's start with that right off. Should we read these names?
It's never been confidential before. When I can go back as far as when Chris passed away in office, and it was public forum, and the people who were interested were at the meeting. So I think it's an honor to note that those people are interested to me.
Okay, I just was worried about somebody, you know, who wasn't selected. I wanted to save them embarrassment just in case
I don't think it's anything embarrassing. I think it's.
Oh, I don't think so either.
Okay, so Jeremy, I'll pick on you here. I mean, do you think we should read them?
I mean, I'm indifferent really. I think their letters of intent showed that they have an interest in the position, and that's public enough for me. So I'm indifferent.
Okay. So Chris, Kevin, what do you?
I'm good with reading the names. I don't think that would be anything embarrassing. I think every one of these people have put their name out there for public viewing or want to step up and be involved in the city. Now, if we need to go into executive session to talk about each candidate, that may be something we need to do.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. So Kevin, how you feel about it?
I agree with Chris and everyone else. I think if everybody has put their interest out there, and we've also shared it on a citywide email amongst ourselves, so it is knowledge anyway, and all somebody would have to do is ask for public record if they wanted to know who it was. So well, I think that's right. Is that not right, Greg?
You're right.
Okay, so, you okay?
So I'm fine with it. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody on there is honorable to be one to recognize.
Okay, Tanera, you okay with that?
Oh, all the resumes and the letters of interest were wonderful, and they're all wonderful people. So I'm okay with it. I just wanted to make sure that was allowed, because I didn't know if it would be considered employment that you would have to go in executive session.
Well, I agreed with you, and that's why I asked the question to make sure everybody was okay with going ahead and reading the people from our community who expressed interest in being appointed as a council member. Okay, so I think that we're all in agreement that I'm going to read this list of names. And that's going to occur. And then we've got to talk about the processes that we may use to select one of these individuals. And we'll get the process will be in open meetings for sure. So the names, in alphabetical order by last name. Nathan Brandon, Steve Freeman, Danny Greenfield, Ralph Howard, Josh Scott, Danae Shelton, and Dwayne Stice. And so as a point of inquiry, they have taken the time and have responded to the city clerk, and city clerk has distributed to the council members that they have interest, and they have submitted letters and in some cases some detailed employment history and stuff to the council for their consideration. So that is the list of folks. And as mayor, I couldn't be happier than to have a pretty wide cross section of interest. I think that all of them have strengths and would bring something to the council. And we have to go through a process to select one. Now, a decision is to be made, and as Greg pointed out, there's really no procedure that's been dictated on how we accomplish this. But and in fact, this council in my history of being a citizen and a council member has employed different methods to do this. So with 7 people out here, I would like to propose that we could go and talk in executive session about some of the characteristics of the individuals and what they bring to the job, and try to see if the council can arrange a consensus or come to a consensus, and see what we come up with, and maybe come back out of it. We want to go through a different level of selection other than discussion. We can make that known.
Do we have to come up with the process before we go into executive session, Greg? Was that what you said, or did I misunderstand?
No, you don't have to. But if you go into executive session, you can only do so to discuss particular persons. You can't discuss the general job of we've got to appoint somebody, and you can't discuss procedure. You can't discuss anything except just particular. I don't want to call them candidates because they're not candidates, but particular persons. That's the only reason that you can go into executive session. But so you can do it in any order that you want to.
Any order we want to, but we can't discuss it once we're in executive session, how we want to go about the process.
That's right.
Well, the process is that the council has to come up with a consensus, or at least a decision on who the individual will be. And so when we get into that situation, I believe we'll be comparing and contrasting individuals' strengths and varied experiences, and who would be better than the next. And that is why you would go into executive. And if there's one individual that pops out as the clear choice, then I think we can come out and take action on that and go forward. If there's some more questions or further areas that need to be explored, we'll come out and go that route. So, Greg, I think that sounds appropriate for what we'll have to do. Okay. So
it is an alternative.
All right. So does anyone want to make a motion that we go to executive session, or we could do it here? This is a personnel matter. This is a decision to be made. And so we clearly have the right to go to executive session if we would like to at this time.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session to discuss the open council position.
Is that to discuss the 7
specifics of the candidates vying for the council position?
Okay, the 7 persons that have sent in letters.
7 persons. Yes.
Okay, so that'll be the only persons that'll be able to be discussed in this executive session.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. If you wish to do that,
got a motion in a second.
Let me make the announcement that's got to be made. The reason for, the general nature of the business to be discussed in the proposed closed session would be the particular persons who have expressed their intention to be available for purpose of appointment to the open city council position in Calvert City. The only persons to be discussed would be the persons that have sent those letters of intent to the city council. And the reason for the closed session is to protect the confidentiality and personal nature of the information and privacy of the persons being considered. Having made that announcement, the specific provision of KRS 61.8810 that authorizes this closed session is section 1, subparagraph F, that specifically exempts discussions which may lead to the appointment of an individual member. That's it. So having made that declaration, we can now entertain that motion to go into executive session.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Jeremy, seconded by Kevin, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the city council is going to go into a phase that we're going to go into executive session and discuss the appointment of the council person.